All right. My name is Chris. I'm an alcoholic. Can you guys hear me okay? Awesome. Okay. Well, what's really cool about Zoom is I always do it from my phone, and it looks like there's like over 50 people here, but like on my phone, it's like I can scroll up and down where I only see 6 people. So usually I kind of just like get a couple people that I'm comfortable with, and I'll be honest, that I want to make sure I'm not looking at that Rob guy because I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan and I see he's wearing Lions gear, so I'm like I gotta make sure. I had a small little resentment when he came on there and he was talking, but that's okay because I got a program for those things. So yeah, I'm an alcoholic and. Today did not go the way I thought it was gonna go. I was gonna like kind of think about my story all day. I wanted to like fine tune it. I want to make sure I do a good job and that kind of thing. And my coworker needed help moving. She and her husband moved today. So it's like I thought I was just gonna help them for a couple hours this morning, and it was like all day long. It was all day. And it's probably the best thing that could have happened, because it's like I felt useful. I was helping somebody out. It was a nice sunny day today. It's like 0 degrees here in Minnesota, but it was nice and sunny. And I wasn't like, I didn't start fretting over this till like 10 minutes ago. So that's a good thing. Um my sobriety date's April 2nd, 2016. My home group's the On Awakening group. We meet Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. We are on Zoom. Um, I have a sponsor. I work with other alcoholics, and I think the most important thing is like I've worked the 12 steps, right? I've worked the 12 steps. I've had a spiritual awakening, and if you're new here, and or at least for me, like I think if I had heard somebody say like, "Oh, I had a spiritual awakening," I would have had some judgment and thought like, "Okay, like what kind of Kool-Aid is this guy drinking?" That sounds a little culty, sounds kind of weird. But our big book, the spiritual experience in the back of the book, just talks about how we've changed. We've gone through a transformation. I have a different attitude and outlook on life, and I've changed. The steps have changed me. This program has changed me. Um, I want to thank this group, a new spiritual family. I shared my story here last January, a year ago, and a lot has changed in the last year. Like with me and my life, I've had a lot of ups and downs. I mean, that's what life is, right? But um, it was a really good year as far as recovery goes. It was a really good year. Um, and when we share our story, we talk about like what it was like, what happened, and what it's like today. And my story, um, I like my story. It was my higher power scripted it out pretty well. It works for me, and as long as I don't pick up another drink, I can just leave it there. Like, don't touch it. You know. And then what happened is the longer I'm here, it's kind of like I get all these like these little my higher power is always nudging me and like disclosing to me like things that happen that I didn't realize, like I keep on learning. It's I kind of compare it to like I'll always go on YouTube like for movies and watch those nerds that are like, well, check out these Easter eggs and like, did you notice this in the movie? And it's kind of like that, like look at this Easter egg of what happened in Chris's story, and so it's kind of cool to see that stuff. But um, what it was like, again, if I don't pick up a drink, I don't have to change that. And I was given the gift of desperation. I had a psychic change, and what it's like today, like that just continues to grow and evolve. As long as I stay here, that just changes. And like, I do have the difficult times, they just become like lessons in recovery in my story. um So I don't like to spend a lot of time on what it was like, because I want to get to the good stuff, but I think it is important to qualify ourselves. And I had a pretty hard time with that in the beginning, because it's like I really focused on the differences. I didn't look at the similarities. I'm just like, well, I'm unique, I'm different, I'm special. And as far as like the alcohol goes, I really was kind of a late bloomer. Like I didn't, that allergy, when I first drank, it was very normal. I wasn't off to the races. Um, I did a lot of social drinking, but there's that line in the doctor's opinion where it talks about how we're restless, irritable, and discontent unless we can again experience a sense of ease and comfort, which comes with taking a few drinks. Well, that first part of it, like being restless, irritable, and discontent, like I read that a while back, and I'm like, yeah, I think I was that way, like right out of the womb, right? Like kicking and screaming, and just like that was my life. I was uncomfortable. I felt different. I just felt uncomfortable in my own skin, you know. Um, and it bothered me. It bothered me. But the truth is, like, I had a really good childhood. I had supportive parents, two older brothers, good friendships. Like there was no traumatic experiences really. And I always thought, like, well, to be an alcoholic, don't you have to have some god awful things happen to you? Like, no, no, alcoholism doesn't discriminate. That's not what it's about. So that restless, irritable, and discontent, it just hadn't manifested into that bodily allergy until later in life. So I was a pretty good kid, didn't get into trouble, did well in school. After high school, excuse me, I live in born and raised in Duluth, Minnesota. After high school, I moved down to Madison, Wisconsin. My high school girlfriend was down there, so I followed her. And life just wasn't treating me the way I thought it was supposed to. Life was getting hard. I was it was very, very sensitive, emotional kid. That was the thing. Like I feel things intensely. Um, and that really hasn't changed. Now I'm just like a sensitive adult, like I guarantee you, like I'm gonna cry here, just like because that's what I do, that's who I am, and I'm okay with that, right? Like I get to feel these feelings. But in the past, like feeling things so deeply, like when it comes to the bad stuff, that was kind of difficult. And today I can navigate that because I work with other alcoholics. I got a sponsor, and I've got these spiritual principles that I try to live by. But I moved to Madison, and you know really started to kind of feel depressed, just this like darkness coming over me. And I failed, dropped out of school. The relationship was like, it was like a 6-year relationship. I'd been with this girl a long time, and that was coming to an end. Well, she went to go study abroad in London, and I went over there with her. Even though things were ending, I went over there for a couple weeks, and I remember just like feeling so alive, like oh my god, like this is just incredible. Like we traveled all over the place, and it just felt like I'm gonna be okay. Like my life is gonna be great, right? And it was like my spiritual awakening, like yeah, this is awesome. And then I came home alone to my apartment in Madison, and I just fell flat on my face, like instant depression, to the point where I like wanted to die. Still not like excess where like in drinking and stuff. And so I move back home to Duluth, and I'm not happy. I don't want to be there. So I make a very quick decision. I'm going to join the Air Force. I come from a military family, and I'm like, I just want to get the hell out of here. And so like within weeks, I'm in boot camp down in San Antonio, Texas, and then things started to get really weird. Like I started experiencing psychosis. Um, I'm thinking I can read the training instructor's mind. They like I'm telepathic. Like I got these like telekinetic abilities. Like, and I believed it. Like that was the crazy thing. Like it was real to me, and it was scary. It was a little exciting. I remember thinking like wow, like they're probably gonna like let me out of boot camp and put me in some special program, right? Like for superheroes or something, like yeah, they're lucky they got me, man. And no, they sent me to the psych ward. That's where I spent the rest of my summer. And it was probably the best thing that could have happened. I mean, they took care of me. I got medicated. I was diagnosed manic depressive. It was pretty clear cut, the ups and the downs. And I remember the doctors just like warning me before I left, like you got to be really careful because people like you, they don't want to take their meds because they want to feel those highs, and a lot of times they turn to drugs and alcohol. And I'm just like, okay, well, thank you, I appreciate that, but I'll be fine, right? So I go home, and I have a lot of shame. I'm just like, God, like, what do I tell my friends? Like, I'm mentally ill. I was in a psych ward. I'm crazy. And that's like, even like, I think about years ago when I was like dating people, and I was, I'm an alcoholic, and like, I have no problem telling people that. It's like, oh, wow, that's great. Like, yeah, like you're taking care of that. But like, to say, yeah, but I'm mentally ill, like, that's kind of like, oh, I don't want to say that. Um, but so I had a lot of shame, but I went home to a supportive system, family and friends, and life moved on. I got a job and started going to school. Now I'm going to tell you kind of this is kind of like the love story part of my story. And I go out on this blind date with this girl. And she liked to drink, and I mean, I'm in my 20s, and alcohol is kind of like a social lubricant. So when you go out, it's like, okay, I want to open up and be relaxed, and she liked to dance. So we go out and we drink, and I could not hold my liquor. I get drunk really fast, and I get sick, and I was a puker, and like and that was another thing. Like I can't be an alcoholic. Like I can't even drink that much, right? And but our big book, like, if you're new, when I say big book, like, there's this blue book, it's Alcoholics Anonymous, and it's get together with another person that's been through it, 164 pages, and it takes you through our program. When I work with alcoholics, I like to do it that way because that's how my sponsor did it with me. It's like, you don't have to reinvent the wheel or anything. It just, you go through it. And I mean, this thing was published in 1939, right? So it's like, it's been around for a while, and it's like the pretty powerful, because at the time it was like, it's not, even though Bill mainly wrote it, it was like 100 people. It was like a collective experience, and they were doing this thing. They found a solution. And so um anyhow, this girl, we'd only been out on a couple dates, and we go back to her place, go back to her house, and like, I'm super drunk, and I lay down on the bed next to her, and the room is just spinning and everything, and I just like, bathroom's way down the hall, and I'm not gonna make it, so I just start throwing up. Like, I'm trying to hit the garbage can, but probably like puking on the wall, on the bed, and everywhere, just nasty. And I pass out. I pass out, and I wake up in the morning, and I put my arm on the side of the bed where this girl was, and she's not there anymore. And I'm like, oh shit, where'd she go? And I look up, and she's on her bedroom floor, and like, I see puke like in her hair, and her blonde hair, and I'm like, that's my puke. Like, oh my God, like, and like, in that moment, I'm just like, okay, Chris, you should probably leave right now. change your phone number and never ever contact her again. Right. Like, and this is like before social media and stuff. So like, I'm just like, I got to get the hell out of here and leave. And, but that didn't happen. It didn't happen. I got up and cleaned it up. I think I met her dad that morning. And I remember just thinking like, oh my God, like she put up with this. Like, I think this is the one for me. Like, I should probably marry her. Right. So that happened. We got married. Not right away, but we got married, and life was really good. She was a wonderful lady. Finished up school, got a good job. We both had good jobs, made pretty good money. Had this beautiful house built for us. We moved in when our son was a week old, and then like 18 months later, his little girl shows up. You got a boy, you got a girl, you got new cars in the garage, and it's like outside looking in, like everything, um, everything was is looks good, but like inside, I was still feeling that restless, irritable discontent, kind of just this like mild depression. I mean, the thing about being on the meds was like I felt like a robot sometimes. Like it like suppressed my feelings. I couldn't get too high, I couldn't get too low. So I'm just like mildly depressed. And she was a very much extrovert, loved to host parties and loved to drink, and not an alcoholic, but just party drinker. And so like alcohol was always around, and then I started binge drinking, and it just it gradually got worse. And the thing about that is, you know when you're in a relationship, there's things you got to do. There's things you got to do. You should like pay attention to your partner and like do nice things. And I was just like stuck in me. Like looking back now, I was very self-centered. I was just like, I should have taken action and saw the doctors and said, hey, I'm not doing okay. But I just went to the bottle instead. um I discovered pain pills. Yeah, I like the way those made me feel, and just for that AA singleness of purpose, I'm gonna kind of keep it to alcohol, but really I'm an addict too. I mean, the only reason I didn't keep on taking pain pills is because I ran out, and like I had this fear of like I didn't hang out with people that did drugs, and I was too afraid to get a drug dealer because get in trouble and go to jail, and like I guess that's an example where like fear kind of helped me out, because I bet I would have liked a lot of those drugs. But so it's like I just went to the alcohol. And so about 7 years into our marriage, like I find out she's having an affair, and it just like destroyed me. It just destroyed me. It wasn't a huge surprise, because I mean, there were things that were leading up to it, but it just destroyed me. And from that point, it was a turning point for the worse, because I was very much like this closet drinker, kind of secretive, doing it off in the corner. Nobody knew. And now it's like, okay, you did this to me. I'm Drinking is justified. You know, I can do this. You hurt me. And I probably drank every day for like the next 3 years, almost. And hurt people, like she did this to me. I found somebody immediately, and like, well, I'm gonna have sex with this other person because you did this to me. And did that make anything better? No. I mean, if anything, it just added another person to my amends list, because I was using sex as a tool, as like to hurt somebody. And it wasn't until I did inventory with a sponsor where I really was able to look at like, um what was I doing, like with the drugs and the alcohol. Like I was sneaking around, I was putting all my attention to that. So really it's like I was having an affair with that, right? you know um if I had been in the other shoes, I mean, I probably would have done the same thing, you know. It's just what happens. So we got divorced. Our kids were really little. I think my son had just started up kindergarten, and so I moved out, stuck in resentment, fear, self pity, just angry, and I continued to drink. I didn't even try to quit, you know. And I dragged her name through the mud, you know, told everybody. I was like, oh my God, how can you? I thought your wife was really nice, and you know, like you're such a nice guy, and like I just dragged her name through the mud. And you know, and then at that point I remember like, oh, this is just a phase. I'm just gonna, you know, I'm gonna meet somebody new. I know I'm gonna fall in love again, and like that'll fix it. And that happened. You know, I met somebody, fell madly in love, and remember thinking like, okay, I'm gonna not need to drink once that happens. And early on in the relationship, we're like at her house and like snuggling on the couch, and I just remember thinking like, I can't wait to get home to drink. And I'll never forget this. I got home and I went up in the cupboard above the fridge to go grab my bottle, and like as the bottle was pointed up to the sky and the liquor's going down my throat, it's just like this light bulb went off, and it's like, oh my God, like you're happy now, but you can't stop drinking, you know? Did I get help? No. It's we moved in together right away. And it was a train wreck. It was bad, you know. Blended family, would fight all the time, fight in front of the kids, and you know, it was a real difficult time. And you know, I was upfront with her about my drug use, and like, yeah, I drink a lot, and but it's okay. I'm gonna take care of it. It's gonna get better. I remember even telling her like, she didn't drink much, so we're gonna have a sober house. You know, let's just not have any alcohol in the house. And I followed that rule, but it just meant the liquor cabinet went to the trunk of my car. You know, you can imagine how that goes. You know, that's where I get my liquor, in my car. So a lot of drinking and driving. Um, and So coming up to that rock bottom that changed everything, um, we were we were fighting. I had my kids one weekend. Got up in the morning, and I'm just like, Let's get out of here." I woke them up and got in the car. Didn't even know where we were going. Just took off and drove all the way down to Minneapolis. Stopped at this water park. You know, like I'm a fun dad. I'm gonna have fun. You know, and stopped at the liquor store first. And it was a Saturday night, January. You know, this time of year it's cold in Minnesota, and drinking all day long. And at this point, I'm getting kind of better at drinking, right? Like I can hold my liquor because got lots of practice. And just drunker than a skunk at night, just drunk and throwing up in the toilet. And you know, my kids are watching cartoons. This hotel is just packed. You know, it's a Saturday night, and I pass out on the bed, and somebody pulls the fire alarm. Somebody pulls the fire alarm, and my kids are like trying to get me up to move and go, and I don't know what's going on. I'm not even coherent. And my kids leave. You know, they leave. They're like 6 and 7 at this time, and you know, I laid there. I don't know how long, and I got up, and I'm just like, this isn't good, you know. And you know, that's one of those examples of like, God, hey, your life is unmanageable, right? Like this is very unmanageable. You're the dad, your little kids are gone. And I get up to go look for him, and there's a knock at the door, and somebody opens the door, and my kids are covered in these heavy blankets, you know. They got no shoes on, no jackets or anything. And this employee had brought him back up, and she didn't say anything, you know. She just looked at me, and it's like, my kids came in, I shut the door. She didn't need to say anything, but it was just this like internalized shame, like, oh, I'm just a piece of crap, you know. And I put my kids to bed and I got on my knees and I was like, God, I can't do this anymore. I need help. Nothing, not some like profound, long-winded prayer. Just like, God, I can't do this anymore. I need help. And I don't think I came from a religious family, somewhat. But I don't think I'd ever gotten on my knees since I was like 4. My mom was teaching me how to pray. And that was a big deal, that's step one, right? That's surrender. Like I can't do this shit anymore. And woke up in the morning, horrible hangover, but that was something that was a psychic change, something more than human power. And I felt a sense of like, okay, like I had a little bit of serenity, like this feeling that things are gonna be okay. Um, and it's funny, one of those like Easter eggs that I got is I didn't sober up till a couple months later. That's what we celebrate is our sober dates when our last drink was. But really, like, fear sobered me up for a bit. That's what our book says. Fear sobered me up for a bit. Like, oh, I can't drink ever again, and no, I just can't drink when my kids are around me, or you know. Um, but that was I had to look. I had to look recently just to figure out like what date that was, and I found out it was January 23rd. And I'm just kind of like a nerd with numbers, and it's like January 23rd, 1, 2, 3. And I didn't even know the steps at that time, but in a sense, that was step 1, 2, 3 because I had the belief in a higher power. And yeah, I made a decision like I need to change, but the thing about that decision is you can take it back just like that. And I did take it back, but it was just kind of interesting that was the date that it happened. Um, but it got me to a point where like I admitted out loud to another person, like, yeah, I'm an alcoholic. And that was a big thing, and saying, yeah, I need help. And my girlfriend at the time, she gave me some information about a treatment center, and I called. I got scheduled to go there to outpatient treatment, and I don't have anything against treatment centers, but I understand there's some, like Hazelton down in Minnesota, that's a big one where like they use the 12 steps, right? Like they can talk about God and spirituality. And a lot of other ones don't. Like they can't talk about that stuff for whatever reason. And that's the one I went to. So it was like it was good, it was comfortable, but there was no talk about spirituality. I did not learn about the disease of alcoholism as it's laid out in our textbook. And wrote some essays about my rock bottom and watched some movies, and did a lot of like group therapy, and it wasn't bad, but um to top it off, they graduated me at some point. And I think like for an alcoholic, like that's the most dangerous thing you can tell somebody is like, yeah, you graduated, right? And because we never graduate this program, it continues for our lifetime. And I'm just so grateful to this random guy that said, well, why don't you try an AA meeting? Like, go to a speaker meeting. You don't even have to say anything. You just listen to somebody else. And that was not even on my radar, really. Like, I didn't know anybody in AA. So I tried a couple meetings. Didn't like them really. I mean, I was just, because I thought like, well, I'm unique, I'm different. Like, all you guys are friends, you know each other, and then there's me, and I'm separate. And first couple meetings I went to, I would, if it's at 7 o'clock, I would get there right at 7 o'clock, and I'd stand right by the door, and right when before the Lord's Prayer is even done, I'd be out the door. Like, God forbid I stay and I talk to somebody, right? And that's how it went for a little while. But then it changed. Like I screwed up, right? I screwed up and actually went to a meeting early, and this guy started talking to me, and he He's just talking to me how things are going. He wrote his name down on a piece of paper, handed it to me, and he said, "Why don't you give me a call? I'd like to get to know you." And I thought that was really creepy, right? Like this older man wants to get to know me. What the hell is this about? I'm a grown adult, but I feel like I need to go home and tell my parents. Like this strange person just gave me their number, and but I was desperate, so I called him, and that was really powerful because he like got into my head. I mean, he just shared his story, what was going on with him, and I thought, how does this guy know exactly? How does he know me? Like, how does he know what's going on? I kind of compare it to like my counselor at treatment center. Like, she was a wonderful young lady. Um, Probably had a master's degree in substance abuse counseling, but she did admit to us like she was not an alcoholic or an addict, and we need those people, right? We need people. I appreciate those people that are there to help us, but just the power of like someone having the actual experience that was talking to me one on one. And so, he just kind of said like, well, you want to get together before the meeting next week? I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah, sure." He seemed to be relatively happy. So, and we just kept doing that. And it's funny because a lot of people say like, get a sponsor, find somebody that has what you have, and ask him to be your sponsor. That big question. And like, I don't think I ever asked this guy to be my sponsor. We worked together the first 4 years, and he took me through the steps and showed me how to do inventory and all that. But I never had that kind of that awkward conversation that some people find really hard. So he came over to my living room one day, and we did a fifth step. And I remember people talking about how like, oh my god, yeah, I felt so much lighter, and this weight was lifted off of me. And I didn't feel that. um I talked about all the obvious stuff, right? Like the affair and the stuff that was going on, some stuff in my childhood, some stuff, but it was kind of like, well, aren't there some things that are kind of personal, right? Like I have a belief in God, and God knows me. God doesn't judge me. God accepts me. But that part about like sharing with another human person, the problem is like God doesn't come down and talk to me. God doesn't give me perspective, doesn't give me like feedback. And when I share with another person, I get that. And there were just things I held on to. And so I stayed sick, like you can stop drinking and stay sick, that's pretty awful. And luckily I didn't pick up, but I just got to a point where I was like, I need to do this again. So I did find a guy that had exactly what I wanted. This really old guy that sponsored a lot of guys, and he's still been my sponsor the last 4 or 5 years or whatever. And he just has a way about himself. Just talk about normal things, and he's always like applying it to the steps or the big book and pulling stuff out. It's like doing these like Jedi mind trick things on me, and it's like I love it, And he took me through the steps, so we went through it again. We did it through the like Joe and Charlie app, so it was a kind of cool new experience. It's still based off the big book, but um, and I did another fourth and fifth step. And this time, the stuff I didn't want to share before, like I shared it, but I was kind of sneaky about it, right? Like there's some things I don't really want to talk about, so I won't put it in the beginning. I won't put it in the end. I'll just sneak it in there somewhere. Like maybe you won't notice or whatever. Well, he's a good sponsor, so we talked about it. We talked about everything, but he didn't judge me. He was just like, "This is how it affects you, and this and that." So when I was done with that, like I really did feel this weight come off me, and it was really powerful. The amends process, that was a really big deal. I made amends with my ex-wife. I've done it a couple times. I mean, it's to the point where she gets annoyed with me because I'll go to her. I'm like, "Oh, I gotta talk about it. Just shut up." She's like it's water under the bridge. It's all forgiven and everything. But when I made amends with her, like I was crying and she was crying, and it was just like, oh my God, like all is forgiven. It was beautiful, right? And so I'm like, this amends process is awesome. So then I go to an ex-girlfriend's house and make amends, and she literally kicks me out of her house when I'm done, right? Like, and the book talks about that, like you may be kicked out of his office or something, kind of old fashioned, but it's the same thing. Like, but the rose, it's not up to me how they accept it, right? Like I just have to take accountability for my behavior. So, some go great, some, don't go so great, but like I'm doing my part and taking care of my behavior. And um so um I have a great relationship with my ex-wife. I mean, to the point where it's almost weird. Like I have a lot of divorced friends, and I mean, we share kids together and everything. So, we talk a lot, but it's like we love our kids together. We celebrate and support them together. Um, my girlfriend and her exchange gifts just this last Christmas. Like, my girlfriend got this like gift with this like really heartfelt and long note on it from my ex-wife, saying like she was so happy that she's in my kids' lives. And it's just like, what kind of weird, bizarre world does that kind of stuff happen? It happens here, it happens in recovery. And yeah, the crazy thing is the guy that she was with is now her husband. And I did my part and made amends with him, and I respect him today. Like I respect their marriage. um there's a story in the back of the book that talks about, like, if you ever resent me, you want to get rid of, like, pray for him every day for like 2 weeks. And I was so pissed off at both of them that I did that. I did it. And they say, even if it's just words and you're like, okay, I pray for these assholes, these son of bitches, or whatever, like, just do it and keep doing it. And it went away. It's crazy, but it, like, over time it went away. And like I no longer have, like, that was the biggest thing on my inventory, but I don't have like an emotional connection to it anymore. um I still pray for him. I'm not, this program just in the last year, like I'm not really good at prayer, but I'll have this prayer list. So I put names on it, like people that are hurting. So, like, if you are having trouble and you want me to, give me your name, I'll put it on the list. And I pray for my ex-wife and her husband like every day. And it's really cool that I get to do stuff like that. It gets me out of my head. It's almost like AA trickery. Like I get up and I just look at this list of other people and I'm thinking about other people, not me, not in my crazy brain. um Sponsorship, that's a really big one. I was kind of late to the game in that. My first sponsor was always like, Chris, why don't you put your hand out to the newcomer and, give them your name and give him your number. And I'm like, I don't think I can do that. I'm kind of an introvert, and I might screw him up or whatever. And finally, I'm just like, okay, I did that. I gave some guy my number. I actually gave him a ride home because he had a DUI. And that 20-minute ride home, like, I just shared to him like my experience, like how important this program is and what it's done for me, and he was sharing back to me. And I remember dropping him off and just like feeling this almost like a high, right? Like a buzz, or like I'm at some kind of spiritual. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. And like, man, I should have been doing that a long time ago. So, um just this last year, December of 2023, a friend of mine who's been in the program for a while, he asked me if I would take him through the steps. And I say, yeah, yeah, of course I will. That's what we do. We say yes. And but then I went home and I immediately thought, like, oh shit, like this is like, I had this fear. I'm like, my sponsor took him through the steps. My sponsor's like almost 100 years old, and he's like Yoda, right? Like, he's super wise, he knows everything, and he took him through the steps. And then there was this other guy, old timer, lots of years of recovery, worked with him. He's like Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then I'm like Jar Jar Binks, right? Like that's my perception of me. So if you're a Star Wars fan, it's just like I'm this clumsy whatever guy. I'm like, oh my god, what the hell does he want from me? And that's just a character defect, right? Like like low self-confidence, low self-esteem. So it just propelled me to get busy, to walk through that fear, to talk to my sponsor. I did another inventory. I even did a fifth step with this complete stranger on Zoom that lives in Toronto. And that was like the easiest fifth step I ever did, because there was almost like a comfort of like, well, I'm never gonna see this guy. Like I can just lay it all out there. And the ironic thing is I get to go to Vancouver this summer for the international conference. So who knows, I'll probably run into him. But like that just changed my whole view. Like I got a little bit of self-esteem. So this last year I've sponsored a number of guys and I've had really good experiences. I've had growing experiences. I've learned to set boundaries, and that's like continuing to change. Um, Getting back to my friend, he comes over Thursday nights before our meeting, and we've been doing that, pretty regularly. And there was a time in July where, before I came over, I was going through my daughter's room. I was changing the sheets on her bed or something, and I find this some papers in the corner of the room, and I start reading them, and it's a suicide note. She's 15, just talking about how she wants to take my pills, she wants to get a gun, she wants to jump off a building. She was on some antidepressants, stopped taking them cold turkey, so like her mind is all over the place. And so I'm just like stuck in fear. I'm just like, oh my god, my daughter, I'm stuck in fear. And within 2 minutes, a member of Alcoholics Anonymous shows up at my house, right? And to top it off, he's like he's a mental health professional, like a counselor. I mean, how crazy is that? Is that not a God thing? It's like, is that odd or is it God? He shows up, and it's kind of ironic because we were working on step 6 and 7, like how to remove this stuff. And he sat down with me, and like I cried in front of him, and he just like listened to me and asked the appropriate questions and talked about talked about the fear, and talked about like, well, what do I do? What can I do? I'm powerless over certain things, but like, man. And my daughter's doing a lot better now. We're actually doing like a DBT program together, and it's really cool. I mean, book talks about like doing outside, seeking outside help, and we're doing a lot better. And just this last August, we went to Peru. We went to Peru, just me and her, and some other people. And that's something I'm very aware of. That never ever would have happened without recovery, without like the life I'm living today. Like that's just something I never dreamed of. But we did it. We made it happen. And it was an incredible trip. But like I wanted to my main goal was like I want to get to an all Spanish speaking meeting, right? Like I took a lot of Spanish in high school and college, and like I don't speak fluent, but that's something I wanted to do. And I took action. Like I went on that little blue AA meeting chair app or whatever. It like didn't work, but it directed me to somewhere else. I got some phone numbers. I called. I couldn't understand what they were saying, so I had to go to the front desk, and they're like translating for me. I wanted to make sure it was an open meeting so I could bring my daughter. So we get to this meeting right on time, dark alley, in Cusco, Peru, and then there's that sign up on the wall, or AA sign, tienes un problema con beber, hay un solución or whatever. It's like, oh my God, there's a solution. That's it. That's AA. And I would go in there, and we definitely look a little different from the people that are in there. And so immediately this lady's like, que es su grupo? And probably making sure we're not just tourists that are in the wrong place. And I'm like, oh, on awakening, on mañana, mi grupo is in mañana. And so then, like, there's a podium. They just, it's like seeing the steps and the traditions in Spanish, hearing the preamble, not even understand it, but like knowing, like, oh yeah, that's the preamble they're reading to say, "Me llamo Chris, soy un alcohólico." Like how cool is that? And then, the lady's like, people are going up and sharing for a little bit, and she's like, "Yeah, you go up there and share your story." I'm like, "In Espanol, sí, sí." And my daughter, of course, is like, do it, Dad." And I'm like, "I'm gonna do it." So I got up there and talked for like 8 minutes. I'm sure it was probably a train wreck, but like I did it. Like I got to, and it's just incredible. It's a medium I'll never ever forget, because it's like, you know, language. I mean, this started with like two guys in Ohio, and I'm like 4,200 miles away, but yet I'm home. When I walked in there, I'm home, with fellow alcoholics, and so I'm gonna close up here pretty quick, but sorry for being so long-winded, but I just kind of want to talk about that spiritual awakening again. Like that's a real big deal to me. Like, um, I used to argue with one guy, and I'm like, well, I had a spiritual awakening when I was in that hotel, because like I literally woke up, right? Like I was passed out and it was spiritual, and be like, yeah, it's a powerful spiritual experience, but it's not the awakening, because the awakening, they say, is the result of working the steps. So, you know, I was it was a couple years into recovery. I'd done a inventory best of my ability, made some amends and stuff. But it's a couple years into it, and it's like, yeah, life was better. Life was better, but it's like you just don't notice. You don't really notice stuff. It's like other people do. And I'm driving with my kid over in Superior, Wisconsin. That's where they went to daycare. And we drive by the old daycare, and I just like this memory came back, something that was suppressed that I didn't think about until then. And it was like pre AA. And I remember picking them up one day from daycare. And they're little, they're in car seats. And I'm just pissed. I don't know if it was when I was going through the divorce or what, but I'm like angry, like, oh, my wife cheated on me. I'm resentful and self-pity, just self-loathing, just so upset. And my daughter's having a temper tantrum, and she's just screaming. I put her in the back seat of the car and put my son in his car seat, and I drive around the corner, and I just pull the car over to the side of the road, and I just rip into them. Pull the car over, and I just start swearing F bombs, just screaming at them. And just my daughter is crying harder. My son starts crying, you know. And I just remember him like saying, "Just stop, Dad, please stop, stop." And it was like my worst moment as a father, you know, and that came back, that feeling that I forgot about. And so I'm in the car with my son, and I'm just like, okay, I'm in AA now. I got to make an amend. I gotta see something here. And a lot of men's you can get like coached, by your sponsor or whatever, but it's just me, my son, higher power, and I'm just like trying to talk to him, like, yeah, when I was, before I found the program, buddy, I was really angry sometimes. I'd yell at you guys, and I didn't really, have very good behavior, and I'm just like fumbling over my words trying to talk to him, and he just stops me. He just backseat of the car, kind of with a smile. He's just like, "Yeah, Dad, but you're not like that anymore." You're not like that anymore. And that hit me. It just hit me like, wow, yeah, you're right. I'm not like that anymore. Um, so that there I think I can say it without getting into an argument like that. That is a spiritual awakening, right? Like that embodied that because it had worked through the steps. Spiritual experience talks about how, other people notice it well before we notice it ourselves. So it was a real gift for me to get that from my 10-year-old son in the backseat of my car. So, um, and I told you, I'm an emotional man. Um, but yeah, I love this program. Those steps are never ending. I remember walking in to like one of my first meetings and like glancing over the steps really quick, and it's like 1 through 12. Yeah, yeah, I got the gob thing, and like I gotta tell a couple people I'm sorry and find some drunk to share a couple secrets with, and I'll be done. Like, that's 1 through 12, right? Like this is gonna be a quick deal. And then I would see people that early on that had like 30, 40, 50 years, and I would just think like, what's with them? Like, what's taking them so long? It's only 12 steps. What are they still doing here? And today it's like, wow, the joke's on me, right? Like those are the people I aspire to be. Like, I want to be doing this like when I'm gray and old. And because it's definitely a design for living that works for me. And I'm just really grateful for you guys in this group, and appreciate you guys letting me share. Thanks.